I saw you waving your hands around when we were talking about the Greens preference deal with Bob Brown.
I didn't know you were going to speak to Senator Brown, but I had decided that if the opportunity arose today, I would voice my concern about what I consider to be the great sham of Australian politics, and that is the fact that the Labor Party and the Greens, in the first few days of this campaign, before the major parties have put their policies out, have already come to an arrangement to do a deal. I think they must take us, the voters, as absolute mug punters. They've got no concern about quality of policies. It's only about them and their opportunities, not about Australia. Then I heard your interview with Bob Brown. I've got to say, that should be replayed to every Australian, because if the Labor Party are re-elected because of this deal with the Greens, Bob Brown will be pulling the strings. It doesn't matter what Julia Gillard says. I would have liked you to have asked, if Labor wins, Bob, and you have been instrumental in getting him back, how many ministries are you going to get? How many ministries are you going to demand? What are your top 10 policies that you're going to insist upon? Because at the moment he's out there luxuriously for years, making commitments to policies he cannot implement. They are unimplementable. It requires a different discipline. I would like you to ask him, as you tried to do, if you've entered into an arrangement with the ALP and you say you're an honourable, transparent party, we want to see the document on the table now.
Well, his argument was, which blew my socks off, that he didn't know what the deal was. This is a little bit of what he had to say.
I know.
You don't know the details of a deal that your party has done.
Correct. But I'm told that there's 54 seats in which preferences have been arranged. That was in yesterday's Sydney Morning Herald.
Yeah.
If you're asking me which seats, I don't know.
But
and that is an arrangement to be published when the Labor Party and the Greens and whoever else they're negotiating with ends that process. If you ask
that
me,
just bamboozles me. That a political party leader isn't on top of all the details of what his people are doing. What if they're doing something you don't like?
They're engaged in the process I've tried to have taken out of the electoral system in the Parliament.
Well,
but the big but let me reiterate it again. The big parties voted down my effort to get rid of preference dealing.
Okay, so
Nick,
this is bamboozling.
This is not an election for a kindergarten chalky for the day. This is an election for the government of Australia for the next 3 years. This guy and his party, and Julia Gillard and her party, are taking us all for a ride. It's a sham. If they've entered into an arrangement, we should see the details of that arrangement in writing now. If they want to win our trust, then actually share with us the secret grubby deals that they're doing. This is very different from the Libs and the Nats, who are in coalition, have always been in coalition. You know who's going to be Deputy Prime Minister, etc., etc. Now we've got the Labor Party and the Greens, before the campaign unwinds, coming together saying, we're going to exchange preferences. I promise you that if Labor wins with Greens preferences, this country will not be governed. It doesn't matter what Julia Gillard says, she becomes the Deputy Prime Minister in real terms. So we need to see that document, and we need to see it today, just so we, the public, understand what these apparatchiks have committed their parties to behind our backs.
Or even, I mean, it's great. We should see it, you're right, but at least the leader of the party should see it as well.
I don't believe they haven't been involved. Now, they say they haven't.
I mean, Senator Brown was right there. He's either boldface lying.
I tell you what, if they haven't been involved, and they have no idea what their apparatchiks have committed them to, and their parties, if they win the election, then the thinking public ought to vote against them on principle. How can you vote for a team or a group of people who won't tell you what their priorities are? It is a disgrace. So I am so hot under the collar. I think this is such a sham. Putting that to one side, I think you get an idea of how people value Australian politics when you consider now that we're only going to have one debate, yes, and we're going to have it at 6:30 on a Sunday night, when most people have no chance of watching it. And this is after Julia said, in a democracy you need to have 3 debates. All of a sudden it's one. I don't know why they don't put it on at midnight. I mean, we are mugs. The Australian community are being taken as mugs.
Politicians are being told they're second-rate compared to amateur chefs.
Well, and that's appropriate the way they're behaving.
Yeah.
And why is it appropriate? Because I've got to say, my third gripe... what a
We're going to be here for a while, ladies and gentlemen.
My third gripe is that none of the parties are actually talking about Australia's future. What they're all doing is dumbing us down. Where there's an issue, they're saying, oh, I don't want to confront that, so population. We're going to have a smaller population. Don't we want to grow as a country? Don't we want to grow in influence? We've got issues in parts of Sydney, all right? No more people move in there. There is no debate about a national water scheme. There is no debate about a national agricultural program. There is no debate about anything that matters to this country to date that might be of concern to as we move towards 2050.
So I think you're agreeing with my theory that it is not about the number of people, it's about the facilities we have for those people.
Absolutely, but you can't stand still. I might, if you're running a business and you stand still, if you don't grow, your competitors overtake you. If the Australian Football League doesn't introduce new teams, stand still, their competitors will overtake them. The same applies to a radio station, same applies to a country. We've got to be aiming to be better at what we do.
So
we're
Tony
not.
Abbott is not doing that?
I don't think either party has yet singled out to the Australian public where they want us to be in the year 2050.